Thank you for sitting down once again for Behind the Final Call cover story. Of course, this is volume number 38, number 45. The date on the paper is August 13. The title of the paper is White Terror in America. Happy birthday anniversary, Brother Richard. Why this cover story?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the birth anniversary wishes. You know, this was a very important cover because over the August 3rd weekend, we had two mass shootings in the United States, virtually back to back. Right? One with 22 people killed in Texas. Another which, unless the numbers have gone up today, another 9 people killed in Ohio. The Texas incident definitely connected to white supremacy, white terrorism, white shooters' response to what he spoke of allegedly as an invasion of Latino people, brown people. In Dayton, Ohio, 9 people dead, out of 6 of them black. So there are questions about, was it random or was that also somehow related to racism and racial killings? So these are major events that we try to bring some authoritative analysis to, that we must report on, that we try to bring some understanding to. So we have multiple articles in this week's paper, not only dealing with reporting from what happened, but I've got a column this week going into some analysis, the straight words column, and then we have another piece describing a report that says some of the things that can be done to deal with this problem of white supremacy, domestic terror, which really America continually has a problem facing and a problem dealing with, while admitting it is the #1 terrorist threat the country is facing.
That's right. Yes, sir. Thank you. So as you mentioned, there was just a lot going on this past week, just in general. So of course, the final call is always on the cutting edge and making sure that what's going on in our community that our people need to know about, that is being discussed in the paper. So of course, something that many in our community would be interested in is the article dealing with ASAP Rocky and Europe's growing race problem.
Well, for those who have been following, we know that ASAP Rocky is one of the young rappers out of New York. He actually went to Sweden to perform, ended up being locked up because of an incident. He was held for about a month and went to trial. He was released August 2nd, and he will return to Switzerland, or a verdict is supposed to be issued on August 14th, right? But what we wanted to do was not only talk about his case, but to ask the question about whether or not his case and this decision to prosecute him or incarcerate him, because he was locked up for about 4 weeks, seen as a flight risk from the country, when really video of the incident really showed him and his crew being those who were being aggressed upon, those that were being pushed by the people that they eventually defended themselves against. But we wanted to look at some of the racial climate in Sweden, the racial climate in Europe. There's some good reporting in here about other incidents involving rappers. One involving a white artist in particular, who was accused of some things even worse, but did not suffer the same fate as ASAP Rocky. So we always want to kind of expand the conversation and the consciousness, but we hope that people will check it out at finalcall.com and come away with a little better understanding.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Of course, another big thing that's going on right now in the news, of course, is with the Democratic debates. Of course, we have an article that deals with that. Can you give us a little insight on
that? I mean, well, of course, we're looking at the 2020 presidential election, and you've got the Democratic candidates now really kind of starting to run in full force in this primary to see who will represent the party against pretty much Donald Trump in 2020. But we wanted to look not only at these recent debates in Detroit, but what is the substance and what is the subtext. And so we like to encourage people to check this out and consider our reporting on the subtext. And this word that they use, electability. But electability is really a code word for, can the Democratic Party chisel off just enough white voters to win? So this is something that every 4 years, every national election, the Democratic Party goes through. And we know the Democratic Party is the party that most blacks support. But yet this thing of race and this really problem of race and whether or not black folks are going to benefit from their support of the Democratic Party come to fore. And you know, we've always got the question of, is fear of Donald Trump enough for people to come to the polls? So we're dealing with some of those issues, some of those issues in the story, and we want folks to stay tuned, to stay engaged. So you think about the politics and the voting and what's in your best interest. You can only do that if you stay in touch with what's going on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And there's another one, and this is actually just really showing the different things that are going on in the world and just racism. I mean, I guess that if we just call it straight out, and that once again, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, that separation is the best and only solution. But of course, our sister, Representative Omar, has had some run-ins with your favorite president. And can you deal with the issues as it relates to no right to free speech?
Well, this story is connected to a congressional resolution sponsored by Representative Omar. And essentially what it did, it basically tried to make the point that the right to protest, the right to freedom of expression, the right of Americans should not be stifled because there are moves now in Congress, and there was a different resolution passed earlier, right? And that resolution was against the BDS movement, right? Which is a movement that is about divestment, boycotts, and sanctions against Israel in order to force the Israeli government to do justice by the politicians. So this is a global, international boycott that obviously has been picking up some steam against Israel. The interesting thing is there have been moves in America, and this is very important, at the local level, local laws that say if you want a contract, if you want certain services, and you're an American citizen, you have to agree not to protest or boycott Israel as part of this anti-sanctions, anti-boycott, divestment, anti-boycott, divestment, and sanction movement. Again, the boycott, the divestment, and the sanctions are aimed at Israel. But you have local jurisdictions in the United States that are saying to Americans, you cannot speak out, organize against, or boycott Israel if you want services, contracts, jobs you are entitled to as an American. There was a congressional resolution that echoed that sentiment. Representative Omar introduced a counter resolution, which says basically the right all Americans have to protest must be protected. It is an essential democratic value. So when you get into these kinds of discussions, I mean, it really says something about the awesome power of the ability of the state of Israel to impact not just U.S. foreign policy, but U.S. domestic policy. You can't imagine any other country that would be able to lobby and get local lawmakers to pass ordinances that protect the rights, or not the rights, the interests of a foreign nation and curb the rights of American citizens. Very important piece. We hope people will check it out, and I hope that I've made it clear in terms of what it's all about.
Thank you. Now, as we said, it's a lot that's covered in the paper, but one of the things I want to make sure that I talk about, we talked about the issues and the problems and many of the things that have been happening over the past week that haven't been the most pleasant, which actually further just helps to push the perspective of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad of separation. As Student Minister Ava Muhammad has been traveling around the country, pushing Project Separation and having town hall meetings. We have an article dealing with that as she journeyed to the southern region in Atlanta, Georgia. Project Separation Tours stops in Black Mecca. Can you give us something on that?
Again, this is the ongoing work of Sister Ava Muhammad. A great work. A work to get our people to really consider the realities under which we live. Not only political reality, not only physical reality, but spiritual reality. Mm-hmm. And the question of whether or not this is the day where we should be seeking to integrate into a society that doesn't want us, or should we now be striking out on our own? So these moves around the country, these conversations, this consciousness raising becomes more and more and more important as we look at conditions in society, which say more and more you will not be able to find peace with these people. I think that's what the shooting and the horrible shooting, because we don't ever want to mock death. We don't ever want to act like we are happy over the death of innocent people. But we do hope to in some way try to put these losses in context for people to consider what our reactions should be or what our actions should be. Because certainly we abhor the loss of any innocent life. But I think it would behoove us to take a look and ask ourselves, what are the conditions that are out here, and ask ourselves, in light of history, in light of what we see happen, can we continue to strive or believe that we can find peace among these people, or is there something else that we need to look for? Yes. So we would just encourage people to look at, consider, read, and learn about this something else that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is offering, and see what you think, see what it leads you to do, and see what kind of understanding you get based on the realities and the ugliness and the violence and the racism and the humiliation and the subjugation, which seems to be endless when it comes to us.
Yes, sir. And we're not going to get through it all, but you speaking made me think about the book, The Fall of America. And of course, we have an article from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or an excerpt from the book, The Fall of America, from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Hell Erupts. Didn't get a chance to read it this edition, but that book is so timely in the day and time in which we're living in. So what it gives us is insight into what not only is happening now, but what we should expect will be coming as things increase.
Absolutely. And of course, we got the minister's article, The Cause and Effects of a Violent Society. And in that article, he talks about how the violence in society starts at the top and it trickles its way down. You know, so whether you're talking about, for example, we had a flurry of violence this weekend in Chicago. Regular violence, if you will. Several people shot. I think a couple dozen people. I think about several people dead, rather. A couple dozen people shot. These are conditions, these are realities that we need to be aware of. And we need to seek and avail ourselves of guidance. And we humbly say that you can find that guidance with Minister Farrakhan, with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We just encourage people to look, to read, to watch, to listen. And we say, if you find anything of good, pick it up and use it for the benefit of yourselves and your family and your community.
Yes, sir. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I know there's at least 3 additional articles outside of the proper project separation that shows that not only as we hear about these negative things that are happening in our community, that our people are doing things. The Leadership Conference for Girls, Manhood Development Summer Program fulfills a need. There's one with the Tampa, Florida Study Group that shows that we don't have to wait and look for anybody else to do what we have the ability to do for ourselves.
Those stories are very important because it says that we as a people are awakening, we're moving, we're acting, not reacting, but we are acting progressively to try to solve our own problems. And that's very important because that inspires more activity, that inspires more faith, that inspires more confidence that we can actually do things for ourselves to resolve these kinds of issues. I mean, even this establishment, the foodie spot where we're being filmed right now at 7350 South Stony Island, an example that we can do something for ourselves. So all of these things are very important. And again, we hope that the readers get a lot out of this, and we hope that we are enlightening and awakening our people.
Yes, sir. So, I of course, you can see it's getting increasingly loud in here.
Yes,
there's a lot going on at the foodie spot.
Good,
it's not
it's a
just
good problem.
It's not just food that's being eaten, but there's networking, there's brotherhood, there's sisterhood, all of that's going on at the foodie spot. So you get food not only for your stomach, but you get food for your soul. Brother Richard, is there anything else that we need to talk about in this edition?
Very important Chicago-based story. On the story about, there were two mothers.
Yes, sir.
That are part of this group, Mothers Against Senseless Killings in Chicago's Inglewood, who were actually literally killed, unfortunately. But these are sisters that have been working for a few years to really improve the community and lessen violence. And unfortunately, the very type of violence that these two young mothers have been working to prevent claim their lives. So we're very touched and saddened by that, but their work continues. And so the story that we have this week, the headline is "Not Defined by Tragedy, Painful Deaths Won't Deter Determined Black Mothers." So again, these are women working right there in the neighborhood, interacting with the community, feeding people, organizing activities. They're planning to do some school and educational things there in addition to what they're already doing. They've opened a restaurant in the Beverly neighborhood to help fund some of their activities, as well as to give young people a chance to go to work. So again, we want to try to show the full gamut of what has happened and show that despite difficult times, that there's always a light. And these sisters are very inspiring. And so we want you to check that out in the paper as well.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you once again. It just shows and demonstrates your commitment. Once again, I reached out for you this morning and found out it was your birthday anniversary. And of course, you said, man, part of the celebration is doing the show. We've been gone for a little while, but Allah willing, we will be back and you'll see us regularly. I'm going to push you. I didn't tell you I was going to come up with this one, but most of the stuff that comes up, you don't know in advance. So, but you'll be leaving out of town. Can you talk a little bit about that trip and what people should be expecting?
God willing, I'll be leaving tomorrow, going to the Ferguson, St. Louis area. Later this week will be the 5th anniversary of the killing of Mike Brown and the uprising in Ferguson, the 5th year anniversary. So we're going down to cover that, and you can look for that, inshallah, in the next edition of the Final Call.
Well, until next time, Behind the Final Call Story.
Cover story.
Behind the Final Call cover story. Get me right. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Peace.